And welcome back, everyone, to Entrepreneuring. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and my guest today is the owner and operator and, well, I don't know what else to say, but totally awesome prop maker over at punishedprops.com. Bill Doran, welcome to the show.
Hello, good being here, and technically my job title is Intergalactic Arms Dealer.
That is true. I have one of your business cards.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's one of the perks of being self-employed is that you get to pick what your job title is. My wife's job title is Cat Petter.
Okay. I do not have one of her business cards. Next time we get together at a convention, I will need to definitely pick one up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is a huge perk. So, Intergalactic Arms Dealer. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure like on LinkedIn and everything, which people still use. Don't get me wrong here. I don't use it. I mean, I log in once a month or a year. But I'm pretty sure my job title is officially Intergalactic Arms Dealer.
Well, that is wonderful. That's one of the funny things, right? If you look back into your earlier days when you were kind of like, I know me, I kind of looked at being self-employed through very rose-colored glasses. I'm like, man, it's got to be wonderful. You get to set your own schedule. You get to make your own incredibly awesome or silly, depending on who's judging your job title. You get to make your own job title. You can work from your own home office and totally trick it out and all kinds of swag and toys like this thing sitting right next to me. But then you get there and you realize, wow, this is a lot of work.
Yes. Oh, yes, indeed. It's not all chocolate and rainbows. And I did double check. My official job title is, in fact, Intergalactic Arms Dealer.
Nice.
Yes.
So if a standoff scene from the latest Star Wars starts to happen behind you, I shouldn't be that surprised.
No. We're all set. We got a full array back here of, let's see, we've got Skyrim, we've got Diablo, got some Destiny. This is actually from the original Battlestar Galactica. That was a gift from a friend of mine there. We got more Diablo and then some Mass Effect above there. So we got the whole array back there. We're ready to go.
And I also see a guitar that, knowing how you work, I believe would cause more damage than all of the weapons currently behind you.
Yeah, it's actually the least safe thing ever. And I will play that guitar roughly for about 2 or 3 minutes once a year when I have some free time.
Awesome. Well, you didn't always make props. You weren't always known for building pretty impressive costumes for conventions and whatnot. You used to work for Microsoft.
I did, yeah. In fact, I just eclipsed how long I worked at Microsoft by working at a my own prop making company. So I just hit the 4-year mark of being completely self-employed. Prior to that, I had worked publishing video at Microsoft for 4 years. So I am now beyond that, and I have no sign of stopping.
Oh, that's first. Congrats on your anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think I'm 5 months into being completely self-employed. So I'm still at the point where my accountant is extremely confused.
Yeah, that'll happen. I mean, for a year, I didn't have an accountant before I quit my job, so I did all the accounting for a couple of years. I have since hired other smarter, more focused people to handle that stuff. But that is a huge part of, it turns out, a huge part of doing the whole self-employment thing is how do you pay for stuff? What do you get a checking account just for the business, and then everything I do, like, these are all things you just kind of learn along the way. It literally took me like 2 years to get a handle on that, which is fine. Like, that learning period is normal. You don't have to be on top of that you should eventually. But you don't have to feel like that should be a barrier to entry, because there is a lot of stuff you have to figure out, but you'll figure it out along the way. Or you should anyway.
I think so too. It's surprising how much I kind of just honestly have been winging it. Not saying that's advice I would give out to everyone. Go in as prepared as you can, but maybe like you said, don't cause that. Don't let that cause you to be hesitant.
Yeah, I did talk to an accountant. So I hired an accountant for 1 hour, which was like $90. It's a lot. Accountants get paid a lot of money for their time, and it's worth it. And we met in my office, and then the entire meeting was really just like her listing things I can expense. That was like the main focus of the meeting, like how to keep track of expenses and income, and then what to expend. So, for example, she's like, "Oh, your office, you have a bunch of Legos right there." I'm like, "I do have a lot of Legos." She said, "You can write that off on your taxes." And I was like, "Whoa,
Whoa.
I want you to be careful because you're opening a can of worms." But like, this is everything in my office is stuff I buy as decoration for my office, or like I'll do YouTube videos where I build Lego stuff. And she's like, "Yeah, you could totally write that off." I was like, "Oh my God, I don't need this. This is a lot of power and responsibility all of a sudden." But it was extremely valuable information. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize. Like, if you're running your own business and you don't if you don't write all this stuff off, then you are kneecapping yourself, because you're going to pay that in taxes, and you shouldn't be, because that's how the system works. And if you're paying more than you should, you could ruin your chances of having a successful business, you know? Yeah. So that was a very important lesson. Hire an accountant for literally for 1 hour to come in and just tell you what's what. That was really good.
Look at the stuff in my office. What can I expense? Well, kind of everything. Really, just the Legos? And the Legos? Yes, and the Legos.
Yeah, and apparently this airsoft Glock gun that I have, that's for a video, write that off for sure. It is, and for those watching, it is totally an airsoft.
Yes, and if you're unfamiliar with airsoft guns, it's basically a BB gun, but it shoots plastic BBs.
It's a sweet BB gun.
Totally is, and
it's actually metal parts on it. Like, this was really cool.
Yeah, careful where you take that out in public, folks.
Exactly, that's a really good point. For the video I'm going to do on that, the intro will be like, "You're making a thing that looks super duper real. Kind of don't bring it outside."
Yeah,
because you know it's a toy, but Mr. Nice Police Officer may not know that same thing.
Absolutely,
and he's got a real one.
Yes, yes. So going back real quick though to your years at Microsoft, how did you get to the jumping off point? What seems to be a going theme in these interviews is there seems to be a catalyst. There seems to be a make or break point for just about everyone out there who's flirting with the idea of beginning their own business, of venturing out on their own. What was that for you?
Well, I got into prop and costume making because my friends and I started cosplaying together. We'd go to PAX and dress up as like Team Fortress characters or StarCraft characters. And that was just a fun thing. And I had done plenty of other creative things in the past. I have a degree in 3D modeling and computer art and animation, which I wasn't utilizing at all at my career at Microsoft. But photography and drawing and art and building things, I've always done that. And with the prop and costume making thing, it was just something I've realized that I couldn't not do it. And I found myself spending more and more of my free time, and eventually all of my free time, doing that in my garage, building props, building toys, building costumes, while I still have my day job. So it would be 8 hours at Microsoft, 8 hours in the shop, 6 hours sleeping, and then a couple hours to maybe play some video games or exercise or whatever, be a responsible adult. But I did that for a couple of years, and I kind of built up a portfolio of all these things I had built. I was running a blog. I still do it, my website, sort of showcasing how I build all the stuff that I build. And eventually people started asking me, "Oh, you built a cool thing. Can I pay you to build a thing too?" And again, I still have my day job, but I was like, sure, why not? A little money on the side. It'll pay for all these tools I'm buying and all the materials I'm buying. And it just snowballed. It just slowly built over time, until a couple of things happened. So I went to my first Dragon Con. Which, have you been to Dragon Con yet?
We hung out there a bit, and
That's right. Last year was your first Dragon Con, right?
Yes, last year was my first Dragon Con, and it was, for those of you who do not know, Dragon Con is a very large, kind of just general geek culture convention that happens in the heart of downtown Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. And
kind of a cosplay mecca, too, at Dragon Con.
I can't stress to those who may not have heard of it before just how massive this gathering is. It was overwhelming for me, and I've been to plenty of large conventions.
So you were there. Was it part of your honeymoon? I can't remember if that was part of your honeymoon trip.
No, BlizzCon was. We kind of tied it in because we were heading west anyway. So we're like, well, we'll stop in California and hit up BlizzCon. No, Dragon Con was it was our last hurrah before we had to go back to Florida and really knuckle down on the on getting the wedding done, because we were doing the majority of the wedding ourselves.
Yeah. So my wife and I went there. It always matched up with PAX Prime here in Seattle, so we never went. So in 2011, it didn't match up. So we went to both of them, which was insane anyway, because they're only a week apart. But we went to Dragon Con, and there were so many people that we knew from the internet. Like the major one is my friend Harrison Cricks over at Volpin Props. I got to meet him for the first time. I met a whole bunch of other people. And now Harrison had just quit his day job to do prop making full time. And he was kind of still in that honeymoon period where you're like, oh, it's the best decision I ever made. It's super easy. I get to do what I want. I just make stuff all day. I believe if you asked him the same question today, he'd be like, it's a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that. It's way too much work. Like,
correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Volpin also on your panel at DragonCon?
I did a panel with him this last year. Yeah, with his buddies. They do a podcast.
Yeah, I listened. I sat in on that. It was very very amusing, and I definitely got that vibe from him that it's you could tell he's at that point where it's like he loves it, but it's clearly a lot of work.
Yeah, basically, it's the idea is it's not for everyone. You know, if you have a good day job, it's usually a good idea to keep that day job. But fortunately for me, when I first met him, he was still like, "Oh yeah, you should totally quit your job at Microsoft. This is wicked fun." So like I had that kind of going on. It would be another 6 months or so before I did actually quit my job, but I kind of had that running in the back of my head, like this could be my life, this could be my world. And then after that I started getting more and more commissions from the internet, and then the huge jumping off point, a couple of things happened. I had like 2 weeks of paid time off accrued, and I thought, all right, here's what I'll do. I have a handful of events. I had PAX East, and I was on the now defunct Game On podcast with our buddy Brian and Veronica and Justin.
I loved that show. Yes. It was short-lived and wonderful.
But I was on one of the episodes, and I flew down there. This is basically what I did. I said, all right, I have 2 weeks paid time off. I'm going to take 2 weeks off, and I'm going to pretend I'm a full-time prop maker for 2 weeks. I have no risk because I'm still getting paid. But in that time, I did those two events. So I did. The first thing I believe I flew out to San Francisco and did that podcast with those guys. And it was great to like be on this podcast that went out to many, many people where I was like the professional. I was a professional prop maker, and I was like, it felt awesome. And then I went to PAX East, flew out to Boston and did that. I did a panel, my very first like prop making panel with Harrison from Volpin Props and my buddy Xander and my buddy Matt. Again, being like, I'm a professional prop maker. I do this like for a living, really faking it because I'm like, I still had a job at that point. And then in between those two events for 2 weeks, I spent every moment, literally like 18 hours a day in the shop just building things. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I was like, I can do this. This is a thing I know I can do and I want to do. And literally, I got back from PAX East, went to work, went to my boss's office, went to my boss's office. And I was like, putting in my 2 weeks. I'm going to go make props for a living. And the funny thing is, my boss, who used to work on Star Trek The Next Generation, not as a prop maker, but he was familiar with like props and everything and familiar with everything I was doing. He was like, oh, that sounds really fun. This is a guy who's like a career Microsoft guy now, and he's got a great job, but it was kind of funny to be like, I quit. And he's like, I wish I could do that. So I did that. That was 2012. That was April 19th, 2012. And that's when I quit my job and immediately learned how much work it was going to be.
Yeah. I'm at that moment right now where I'm just like, wow, I'm kind of out of personal real estate. I need a clone of myself at this point.
Oh yeah. What I did too was I was like, I had 6 months of commissions banked. I had zero savings, which not recommended. But I did have, or still do have, a wife who had a day job still, which meant we had things like insurance and steady income, which helped. We have no children. At the time, very little debt. So all of those factors kind of added up so that I could afford to fail for a while, which I did. The plan was like every time I got paid for a commission, I would make sure I saved half of that money, and then the rest of it would be reinvested in the company. And for about 3 or 4 months that worked before I was like, all that saving that I did, I need that. I desperately need that. So that vanished for a while, but then I just sort of bumbled my way through it for a couple of years until I started making it work.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm absolutely there, right? And I don't think going back to your old boss, I don't think your boss is wrong. It does sound very fun.
It does, yeah. Like on the surface, it does sound really fun. And I will say the days where I do get to spend in the shop all day are amazing because I can literally just put on some music. I have one goal today. I have to build this thing, and I get to do that all day. Those days don't happen as frequently as I would like, but they do happen, and they're the best.
That's wonderful. So, so your first couple of years, how did you build it? You talked about fumbling. You spoke a little bit about saving money and how that didn't necessarily pan out. What were some of the lessons along the way that you learned, other than hiring an accountant to come in for 1 hour? Yeah,
I didn't do that for a couple of years. Should have done that earlier. I did. So certain things. So I'll give you this is actually a really fun story. I was commissioned by a handful of people to make Mass Effect costumes. I had made one for myself. So I was going to make some more. And a couple of things. One, when I quit my job at Microsoft, I gave myself a rule. If I found myself doing work that I didn't enjoy just because it paid the bills, then I might as well go back to my day job. So as I built costumes for people, I realized I didn't really like doing that. It's a huge hassle. It's hard to size costumes for people when they're not there. So I realized I'll just make props because space guns are one size fits all, and I like that a lot better. I really just like making space guns. That never even crossed my mind, and I've followed you very closely, Bill. I'm a big fan, and that has still up until you just said it, not crossed my mind that you don't make costumes. I make costumes for me, right? Because I can fit them on me. But also, I just don't. Building a costume, anyone that's made a costume for themselves understands how much frustration goes into that, and it is a labor of love. And for me to put that much love into a thing and then give it to someone else just wasn't appealing to me, even if they paid me for it. So I didn't want to do that anymore. But the way I learned that is I took on a bunch of costume commissions. So I had these 3 Mass Effect costumes to build. I built them in about a week and a half, which is just stupid fast. I had a short deadline. It turns out all 3 of them were going to San Francisco. And I was like, I have a great idea. Because I couldn't fit them. I got measurements and everything, but I couldn't get a good fit on them until the person tried them on. So I was like, it's going to cost a lot to ship these anyway. Why don't I just fly with them to San Francisco, deliver them, fit them, and then I'll fly back. A couple things I learned. When you bring 1 piece of luggage, it's like $25. When you bring 2 pieces of luggage, it's like an extra $50. When you bring 3 pieces of luggage, it's like an extra $100 on top of that. So already I'm like, well, there goes a whole bunch of money I could have made on this thing. Plus 2 days, because I flew down, slept there, flew back. 2 days of my life gone. Yeah, you're talking airfare, hotel, not to mention all your extra bag fees. Yes. Then getting around San Francisco. So getting a cab or paying for the BART or whatever. But I did that. So I flew down with all these costumes, took a cab to the first house where all I had to do was drop it off, and I was going to come back the next day to do the fitting. But I also left my backpack with my camera in the cab as it drove off. Oh, no. Did you get it back? So I desperately called the cab company. They got a hold of the dude. By then, here I was right next to the airport. By the time they got a hold of him, he was in Oakland. Oh, wow. So I had to wait for him to come back and hope that my camera bag was still there. So I'm sitting in the sun, getting sunburned, with two costume crates still with me, while this guy drove back. And fortunately, I did get my camera back, but I had to wait for like 2 hours. Jeez. So already I'm like behind schedule. I'm texting the other person I have to get these things to. So then I pushed these crates. Now, one of them I put wheels on so I could push them around. These 2 giant costume crates. So you stacked them and pushed them around. Strapped them together, and I'm pushing them from that house to the BART station nearby. So it's like half a mile away. So you're in San Francisco where it's very flat and easy to push stuff, I'm sure. Yeah. So I got to the BART. I get on the station. I'm just sunburned and sweating. Take the BART into downtown San Francisco to deliver the next ones. Get off at the wrong BART station. then I'm pushing these crates up and down the hills of San Francisco for an extra like mile or something. Again, it's like 95 degrees out. I'm just sweaty and sunburned. Deliver it to those nice people. Do the size fitting on them, and then they just let me sleep there. So I crashed at their place. Got up the next day. Fortunately, didn't have to push costume crates anymore. Went back to the other house, did the fitting there, flew home. So, like, after that, I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. I wasted 2 days. Anything that resembled profit just evaporated. That was crazy. But that was, like, one of, as far as, like, mistakes I've made as a business owner, most of them I've at least broken even, which is great. I haven't done too many things that have cost me a ton of money or a ton of time. But I do try and learn. The mantra is, like, make mistakes, but don't make the same one twice.
Right. Well, that's I have not heard that story. That's hysterical and sad. I'm sorry for laughing at your misfortune.
Oh no, that's fine. Learn from my misfortune. Laugh at it and learn from it. And I hope the people that I delivered personally hand delivered and fitted costumes to in San Francisco, I hope that they appreciate it, because they're the last people I ever did that for. Actually, I did one more. I made a costume for Veronica Belmont for Dragon Con, and I delivered that at Dragon Con, and it worked out.
You can't say no to Veronica.
No, it's physically impossible.
Yes, yes, it is. That's why we had to win at trivia at the last Nerdtacular we attended. Yes. She demanded it, and we're like, okay, I guess we're winning.
Yep.
So we did. So how did you like? Was there a conscious effort to have to? Did you have to kind of change your public image of your company to say, hey, no more costumes? Or was it just kind of this nice under the radar switch to being like, just taking commission requests for weapons and props now?
Yeah, kind of. So the way we would do it, we have a form on our website. It's not there anymore, but we had a form on our website for taking commissions. And there was a little disclaimer that just says, like, hey, here's the sort of stuff that I make. If you send me a commission request for a costume, just know that I don't really do that anymore, and I'll just delete the email. And people kind of got the message after a while, or they don't get the message, and I just delete them. But no, we transitioned from doing like fully customized things to selling products that we could mold and cast. So we sold like castings of space guns for other people's costumes. So if they wanted a Mass Effect gun, I had already made the mold for it. I could cast a copy and send it to them. They could paint it. So we did that. That was kind of our bread and butter for a long time, just molding and casting and selling stuff to cosplayers, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, that you also talked about things you put a lot of love into. It's sad to see it go. So at least if you have a cast, you can make a new mold.
Exactly, yeah. And I still have a couple of the molds. Actually, yesterday I posted about the Protoss pylon I made a long time ago.
I remember that, because I remember we had you on an old StarCraft podcast many moons ago, and you were like, somebody bought one and gave it to Day 9. It was one of the proudest moments.
That was amazing. And I only made, I think, 4 or 5 of those, and the molds for those are just destroyed. They're just crappy. They're some of the first molds I made, so I wasn't able to make a lot of those. But for other stuff, as I got better at mold making, that became a real way to actually earn a living. Being able to produce stuff quickly. That's really what it came down to, is like being able to make stuff in a timely fashion. So yeah, we did that for a few years, but then things changed.
Oh, geez. Well, tell me what changed there, Bill?
I'd always run my blog where people could go and read how I build everything literally back to my first costume, my Team Fortress costume that I did. It's all on the blog there, and I kept doing that, but also I got into video production, which I've always been into. My high school actually had a really robust TV studio, so I learned video editing pretty early on. And I like being in front of a camera, and I like shooting and editing video. So we started our YouTube channel, and that was maybe like three and a half years ago, to do like tutorial stuff. And that really, especially in the last year or so, has become kind of what we're known for, doing tutorial videos and then I started writing books, and I really kind of fell in love with making content to help other people learn how to do all these things that I had spent all these years getting good at. And that's been for the last year or two, especially now that my wife has joined the company full time. That's really been our focus, is making this good tutorial content.
Yeah, I was about to say, I have your books, the Foam Smith series,
Yes.
which there are quite a few volumes of, and I highly recommend everyone. I'm not sponsored by you, so I'll recommend it. I highly recommend if you're interested in costuming of any sorts like this. It's a very well done resource, and that's it's impressive how there's this clear progression with your career of being self-employed, Bill. You've seen how you. Because I remember when you started, because I remember following, I think, your story kind of on the morning stream, which is a morning show podcast that you are on once a week. And it was like, oh, well, cool, he's making it work. He's doing commissions. He's building things. And then seemingly kind of like naturally, it's like, wow, he has a lot of videos now. And he has this book series of teaching people out there. So you've really made this wonderful pivot into being this hobbyist resource.
Yeah, and there was no real like defining moment when I did pivot. It's just I kept adding more and more things sort of to my repertoire, and those things I started doing more regularly over a long period of time. I think especially when it comes to building content or writing content or shooting videos or whatever, people don't realize how long of a burn that can be. Especially to start getting traction or to becoming more regular with the content that you make. So we only really committed to putting up one new YouTube video every week. We only really committed to that in like, I don't know, November of this past year. But we had a backlog of like 200 videos at that point. So not only did we have more regular content, more reasons for people to tune in, we already had all this content that we could point people back to. We had this archive of still very good, useful content that we could then keep referencing. And now we put up 3 new videos every week because we're crazy people.
Well, it appears to be working. A very successful YouTube channel. At least it appears from the outside looking in.
It actually is. We've seen a ton of growth, especially since we committed to doing at least one video a week. And we're rapidly approaching 100,000 subscribers, which is a huge benchmark for YouTube channels. So we're really excited about that. And we found more ways to support that video content. By support, I mean make money from it, using things like we do Amazon affiliate links for all of the products that we use. We add revenue from YouTube and Patreon, which has been an amazing, just a game changer as far as making content on the internet. Patreon has been really, really incredible for that. And all of these things, like I'm saying, are just little seeds that we planted, little things that we've added along the way that are now starting to bear fruit. So whenever I tell people they want to get into the content making game, it's like commit to posting regular content, plan on it being a long burn, but just commit to it and add little things along the way. And eventually, and for us, it literally has taken like 4 or 5 years to get there. It will eventually and can eventually turn into something really big and something significant.
Yeah, it's been great watching you progress. It's been really fun. So we're kind of at where you were at. What does the future hold for Punished Props?
I'll tell you what, we don't do commission work very much anymore. Part of that is because I have a laundry list of things I want to make. People constantly remind me, like, you should make this, Bill, or they have certain things that they think I should make.
Do you want to know what I think you should make? Because I can tell you so many things.
Yeah. I have no problem coming up with a list of things. I have a list in my Evernote of all the things I want to make, and I really want to start checking stuff off that list. So we don't really take commissions very much anymore. Instead, I have all these things I want to build, and I'll make videos about it. I'll make books about it. Like, I will make all the content about how I build all of these things for our YouTube channel for the next book. We have San Diego Comic-Con coming up. We have BLIZZCON or DragonCon, then BlizzCon coming up. And my wife and I want to build new costumes for each one of those, which is very ambitious. Not just because the number of costumes, but the costumes we want to make are incredibly ambitious costumes. But the journey to make those costumes is a thing that our fans can they can come on that journey with us with the videos that we make. And that's what I'm really excited about. I have a bunch of really awesome projects lined up. I have more projects lined up every single day, and I'm really stoked to make videos about that and share and get feedback from our growing audience. It's really enthusiastic. And I'm really excited every time I go to a convention when I meet people who have made these other amazing things to get feedback from them, because they've taken a video or a book that I did and they took an idea and they just ran with it and then they made this incredible thing. And then we get to be best friends at the convention. We'll high five, talk about making stuff. So for me, that's like what this next summer is going to be all about. Making really cool costumes, making really cool props and projects with my friends, and then sharing all of that with an ever-growing audience of people who are just really, really stoked to make stuff.
That sounds like a perfect world. You get to make what you want and at the same time fuel your content creation.
Yes, exactly. And again, like, I didn't realize this 4 years ago. I didn't realize that that's what I was going to want to do. It took this long to get there. And that's kind of what being an entrepreneur is all about, is like going on that journey and discovering what you want it to be going forward. I joke that what my job description basically changed every month as I built this thing, which is cool. I think if I'm doing exactly what I'm doing right now in 5 years, then I'll be disappointed, because I love that I get to try all these new things.
Well said. And now I'm excited because I'm just getting started.
Yes.
Where am I going?
Yeah.
Project, Bill. Where am I going?
Where are you going? I don't know, because I don't know where I'm going. I was my wife and I were talking about this, just saying, where do we want to be in a year? We know where we were a year ago. That was about when my wife quit her job. We know what progress we've made in that year, and so I can try and project forward. But I also know that's kind of a futile exercise, because something will happen, something will change. That's not good or bad. It's just like this cool new thing that we find is either really fun or a really good business opportunity that we just really want to take advantage of. Who knows? Like, not that I'm saying I'll end up on a TV, but what if I get an opportunity to be on a television show? That would be really cool. What if apparently they're making a new Mythbusters show, and if they want me to be a Mythbuster, I'd have a hard time saying no to that. So who knows what's going to come up in the next year, and I'm kind of excited by that. So for you, who knows, man? You'll probably end up adding 5 podcasts to your list of already growing podcasts that you do. You could be like the next Scott Johnson, who says, why not do 10 podcasts a week?
Every time I talk to him, it's like looking in some bizarre time warping mirror every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm always in the back of my head thinking I should add another show. But then I'm like, wow, that's terrifying. At least at the moment. Where I sit now, that sounds terrifying. But
I will say, too, another really important lesson that I've learned is just being good at saying no to things, because I'm always have really cool project ideas or things to do, and my philosophy when I got started was say yes to everything, which is fine. But once you start getting like a groove, once you start getting into the things that work for you, I found that saying no to things actually is becoming very empowering for me. Because the more I say no to things, the more my time is perceived as valuable to other people.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I had a very, and still do to a certain degree, a very similar outlook where I'm kind of early on in this journey. So I do tend to say yes to most things that come my way. And I'm just now kind of getting to the point where I can turn things down here or there. It's a wonderful luxury to have. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, too, you start to notice patterns, and you realize when certain things show up at your doorstep, it's like, well, I've been there, and like you said, not taking jobs that you will not enjoy.
Yeah. So saying no for me, now that I'm 4 years in, saying no has become an incredibly powerful tool, both for my like personal sanity and just like for just the value of my business, and to value your own time too. Like for me, there are projects I know I should turn down anyway, just because I know there's something else I could be doing that I would enjoy just as much, that would be a lot more valuable for my time, how I would spend my time. I'm not lacking for fun projects. I'm not lacking for cool things to do. So as I'm sort of picking and choosing what I might do, I can now look back I can reflect on the years I've had and say, all right, which one of these things would be the best thing for my business right now?
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and also for not saying no to this.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the last time I'm on with I almost called you Garrett.
Thanks,
no,
Thanks.
This has been awesome. I am talking about like being an entrepreneur and talking about a business and the nuts and bolts of it has been really, really enjoyable for me. Which if you had asked me 4 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know what I'm talking about. That sounds terrifying. But now I find the deeper I get into this, the more excited I am about it, the more I want to talk about it with other entrepreneurs and creative people alike.
Oh, absolutely. It goes back to your old boss. That sounds fun.
That does sound like an awful lot of fun.
Why wouldn't you want to talk about having fun?
I know. Yeah, I talk about having fun all day.
Even if
thanks for having me. It has been a total blast.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. And where can everyone find you if they want to find out more about you, Bill, and what you do?
Everything is at punishedprops.com. If you look up Punished Props on YouTube, you'll find our YouTube channel. There's over 350 videos over there, which is an astounding number when I think about it. It's so much work, but it was a lot of fun work. And you can go check all of that out. So punishedprops.com and then just the YouTube channel.
Wonderful. Well, everyone go check that out. Thank you for listening, and do not forget to subscribe. We will see you next time.